Thank you so much for seeing me again, G.
Cool,
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Here again, of course. Make yourself comfortable.
Will do.
Now, I haven't seen you in a while. What brings you here?
Well, you know, we've had the sessions before, and we've been discussing some of our issues in terms of overcoming our struggles. I mean, specifically the struggles of NLC always losing to a French team and the anxiety that really creates for me. But I mean, I just felt recently that maybe I just needed to talk it out again.
And now that you did, do you feel better about it?
I mean, I thought I did recently just because it felt like I was finally able to overcome it. And it felt like I beat them. It felt like I finally crawled over this wall, this huge blue wall. But when I did it, there was just another huge blue wall in front of it, and it just completely collapsed over me.
Blue.
Absolutely, pure blue, like every single brick.
A brick wall that's blue.
Blue, and sometimes there's even a pepper face, Luffy.
An anime character.
Yes.
As a frog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, let's play a game to just lighten up the mood a little bit, because you seem a little bit stressed. I'm gonna show you a few cards, and you're just gonna tell me just lightly how do you feel about them, okay?
Yeah.
That would be the first one right here.
I mean, that's the EMEA Masters colors, and that's always felt like home to me. It certainly relaxes me, and I do like the purple.
It brings joy. Very well. Now, something that you might be a little bit more familiar with.
That's the LEC. I mean, I was doing that yesterday. So yeah, that's where I work, and that's what I love doing. That's my passion. So yeah, I quite like that. You
feeling better yet?
I mean, I would say so, yeah.
Oh, great. The game is working. Now, this is the last card for you today. See you next year, I guess.
Buraya ilk gelişim değil. Ama bu defa onları yerle bir etmek için buradayım.
Her şey bitti. Çok geç kaldı bu savaşa. Beni orada The mythical beasts fall. Wildcats roar.
Alles stand in Flammen. Aber jetzt ist die Zeit für Rache. Napotkałem na swojej drodze wiele trudności, jednak tym razem nic mnie nie powstrzyma. ¿Qué demostrar al resto? Tengo un brillar.
On vous a manqué. Il est temps de reprendre ce qui nous appartient.
Welcome back to EMEA Masters 2023 Summer Quarterfinals, live from Berlin. I'm gonna be your host for the quarterfinals. Here, Troublelink, Gulbok, and an invisible Yamato Kano who will be joining us later on. Gulbok, thank you very much for joining me.
No, thank you very much for being here as well, G. It's been a while since we've been doing IRL, so yeah, I'm excited for today.
You could say this is an old OG NLC podcast session.
Absolutely.
But I will say that this is your only chance to be more fashionable than Yamato.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't even be mad at that. The man's too well dressed. So, you know, I take what I can get, and this is the first dub of today.
Now, of course, every time we come into EMEA Masters, we have a little pinch of our favorites and what we expect when we go into the group stage, but expect the unexpected. Because a lot of the favorites went out in groups, a lot of newcomers have risen up, a lot of oldies but goodies have returned. So let's have a look at what happened over in the group stage, because we had some surprises, but we had some things that we also expected.
Yeah, I think EMEA Masters is always so exciting to really grasp how strong are the different regions coming in together, who's really the favorite. I think Turkey was a bit of a mixed bunch, but Wildcat still very much showing up as probably one of the favorites. K-Corp as well coming in as LFL's first seed rather. You really thought that they were about to do what K-Corp would usually do back in the good old days when they're coming in with such a momentum into the ERLs and specifically EMEA Masters, but they had a rough one in their groups. And one of the reasons they had a rough one, well, that was because they're facing off against a team like Mochko, who was absolutely fantastic for the Italian region.
Yeah, they didn't lose in groups at all. They actually redeemed themselves because a lot of people said it was a fluke, right? Mochko making quarterfinals over in spring. They said, yeah, it was a one-time thing. They did it again. They finished first in their group. And of course, for K-Corp, I do agree. Well, they did have to face the NLC in a tiebreaker to make it through, but they persevered this. Now, I think it's due to give congratulations to the Portuguese team, GTZ. Last time a Portuguese team even made it into groups was 2019 summer.
Listen here, it's a blessing normally if they get their teams out of play-ins. So even having it at the main stage to the quarterfinals is even more so impressive. But also so much sour when they're now facing up against Mochko, which is usually these two regions that we don't see face up against each other. But also just in general, I think that this European Masters had showed really good storylines for the minor region and the stronger ones coming through, but also just the difference a best of one can make. At the beginning, at least for Mochko, you're thinking to yourself, was it just a fluke? And then doing it again to be 6-0. Like, coming out as second seed has happened before for the Italian region. We've seen it with Makers, but coming out as first seed, I mean, come on, that's absolutely impressive.
They're solidifying themselves. And of course, if we also have a group at how the groups formed at the very end, you'll see that, yes, LFL faithfuls, there's 3 teams in the quarterfinals for you this split as well. We surprised? What's the strength of the LFL currently, Guborg?
I mean, I still think it's really high. Like, I think despite the struggle that showed up from K-Corp, then there was other teams that would step up from the side of the LFL as well. So just bringing this many teams and succeeding with them is once again a testimony to that it's not just a one-team region. It's an entire region where you have to be wary about every single team they send pretty much every single year.
It's not just Casey, ladies and gents. Now, if we can have a look at the bracket of the groups, just to see kind of how the groups formed out and what regions we actually had to say goodbye to. Because I will say, it's been a while since I saw Ultraliga do well. Last time I saw them do well was 2020 summer with the legendary Go ROG roster. 4 members made it into the LEC. But ever since, both of them last in groups.
It's a tough one. I think Ultraliga, you know, they had that one stint, especially with the Go ROG, as you said, like where they really brought in new talent. But ever since then, they just haven't been relevant, and it's a bit of a sad thing to see because there always comes a lot of great expectations with it, but nonetheless, they definitely have taken a hit recently and not the same strides that you would usually see from a such old, prestiged region.
Aren't we a little bit surprised that also Unicorns of Love didn't manage to get out of groups? I mean, obviously Group D was the group of death, second seed of TCL. You have LFL in there. You've got Prime League as well. You've got Super Liga, but they made it to finals over in spring.
Yeah, I think Unicorns of Love as well was a sour taste for them, but maybe even sweeter as well for Movistar Riders. As you remember back in last spring, had the pleasure of casting that quarterfinal as well, and that was Unicorns of Love versus Movistar. So the fact that Movistar could be the one that actually came out ahead this time around, rather than Unicorns of Love, so much sweeter for the Spanish region, because it's been a while since Spain has been on top in the ERLs. We often have high expectations of them, but they never actually really meet them, which is the sad reality. So they got one good strive here. The question is, how far can they take it?
I'm glad that you talk about Superliga and LFL Guborg because we have them today. So if you can see how the bracket of the quarterfinals has formed, we have 4 absolute bangers of games. Of course, today we are going to be covering Movistar versus BKR. But is there anything else that excites you coming up in the quarterfinals?
I mean, come on, we got robbed here. The fact that this is what the quarterfinals looks like already, I mean, you can't do anything about it. It's fully random, right? But Wildcats versus K-Corp, obviously a
this was
huge
the
one to
anticipated
have a look
finals
of.
game,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it could have been, right? But now we'll see it in the quarterfinals. I think you can't sleep on Go versus SK Prime either, because I do think that's actually going to be some really good league that's going to come out of that. But for me, the highlight, and once again, the biggest knife in the back is really to see that Mochko is playing versus GTC in the beginning, because once again, 2 regions that don't often make it to quarterfinals and then they get put against each other. At least one of them is guaranteed to make a semifinals.
I was about to give you the other side of the coin,
that's
that at least they both make quarterfinals. It's the first time the Portuguese team makes quarterfinals, and at least they're facing the quote-unquote easier opponent over in the quarterfinals bracket. Now, of course, if you are interested into the match call versus GTZ, this is going to be played at twitch.tv/ESLOL. Here on the main stream at EMEA Masters, we're going to be covering BKR versus Movistar. And talking about these two teams, LFL versus Superliga has a giant history at facing each other in playoffs, meaning from quarterfinals onwards, best of threes or best of fives. The LFL is currently leading 3-2 in these series, and the only Superliga team that's ever been able to take a series off an LFL team has been Heretics. Heretics are not here. Talk to me about Movistar and if they have a chance versus the LFL.
Yeah, I think for Movistar, this is certainly a time to redeem yourself, not only because you can finally be beating up against the French region, which so often at EMEA Masters, those two regions get compared against each other and the French wins, but also for Movistar riders because quarterfinals with the benchmark in spring, they're coming in with the same roster. And if they can complete their series today and actually move on to semifinals, they've already succeeded what they did in spring, but they've also done it against a French team, and that would be even more so successful of them.
Now, absolutely, when we're talking about LFL teams, we have a particular player playing in the LFL for a while, and that is Checolade. Okay, we have Movistar. We'll chat about Movistar first then. Who has caught your eye from the side of the Spanish team?
I think that whenever Super is on a team, people will talk about Super. He's pretty much always been quite hyped in the Spanish region, but I think the main problem for Super is that he's been so beloved and hyped to the fact where sometimes it's hard reaching those expectations. And, you know, it's not the first time he's here. He's been here for a while. So far, he haven't really been able to hit the mark. One of the things we can say about him, though, is that he does have the potential, but is he the best newcoming of AD carry talent that's going to be? It's hard to say right now. I'd probably go with no, unless he can continue with this run towards playoffs here, because so far, all that's been working for Super has been Kaiser in EMEA Masters, and the rest has kind of fallen short a bit.
And I wanted to ask you now, of course, Super going up against Trigger, of course, our Korean AD carry over on the side of BKR. Their stats look kind of similar, especially when it comes to damage per minute, but it seems like Super gets a lot less resources at 14 than Trigger does.
For sure, but it's also so different with the top side being played. You know, on Marky, you know, he does loves to play the Renekton Aatrox as well and gets leads through that. But I think more specifically as well, Trigger's so happy to play the champions like Seri as well. He does have the Kaiser too, but he's been winning on the Sion Ezreal, which Super has been losing on. So there's a lot more versatility, I would say, in Trigger, at least from what we've seen so far. But the damage speaks for itself, right? Even though that the early laning is not looking too good just in terms of stat-wise, you cannot let that define him, because you look at the damage numbers, and even though he's falling behind, he's still making the most out of it and showing up for his team. So it's not a huge problem for Movistar.
So we should be absolutely high for this matchup. Both these guys are pulling out incredible numbers. Now, someone else who's pulling incredible numbers, who has been known to come from EMEA Masters and is over to the other side on BKR's roster, is Checolade. He started by winning in 2020 with the legendary Go Rogue roster, into going in the LEC for Excel, then dropping back down into the ARLs and trying to resurface through the ERL system as well. How have you seen his career and his development throughout his whole history in League of Legends?
I mean, I think his career has been kind of... It was one that really took off when he was a hype name coming into Europe. But as you said, he kind of had to take a step back. But I think with taking that step back, we've only really seen good strides for him. He's definitely going to be my main focus point, at least from the French team today coming into it, just due to the fact that he's been doing this for so long. Even when I had the pleasure of casting LFL in the English one last year, it was always about Checolade too, and it's perfect. It's his meta right now. We see this here, we see the Talia, Tristana's out there as well. He's happy to get resources, he's happy to be the one carrying, and if he's got a lead going into the mid to late game, he wants to be the one taking it home. And you can see it here as well with the 2v2, Pride Stalker always around, even micro him to really back up this mid laner and get him ahead.
And this guy used to be a Rengar main when he was playing very Prime League. In the eyes of a lot of teams, actually, when it came to him playing back then in Prime League, potentially growing into an LEC jungler, right? Took the route over to the LCS in NA, came back from the ERO. So it's kind of like the trajectory of Checolade and Pride Stalker have sort of been the same, one in the LCS, one in the LEC. Of course, that's all for us over here on the desk. Kubo, we're gonna throw it to our lovely casters, Heeper and Jamada, that will take you through our first quarterfinal for EMEA Masters 2023 Summer.
I can't wait for this duo.
Oh man, I miss him so much, and Trouble, obviously. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the EMEA Masters. My name is Hitbrain, and I am finally, after a long old year, reunited with Jamada. First of all, how we doing, mate? How we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. We've kind of, you know, the start of the show, obviously we're missing Yamato right now. we've kind of got like, an NLC reunion thing going right now for the first bit of the show. Look, I'm excited to be back. It has been a long year. We did like quarters in EMEA spring, I think. And that was it. So we spent a lot of time apart. It's very unusual for us, but I'm very excited to be back. And especially for this matchup, Spain versus the LFL, it can only provide a banger.
I mean, this is going to be an absolute banger series. You're completely right. It was really nice to kind of have a little bit of insight from the guys over on the desk on their kind of thoughts and everything going into this series. Checkerlad has definitely caught my eye. I got to cover a couple of his games during the group stages. Don't give this man a zit. That's all I'm going to say. And that's a great time to go into Champ Select. I feel like Movistar are probably going to be pretty aware of that. I'm curious what this pick and ban phase is going to look like, though, because typically it feels a little bit more like we've seen a lot of these red side teams. They kind of have to have some pretty serious target bans. Some pretty like just normal meta bans. Yeah, where the blue side, they get a little bit of flexibility as they're going to start off with a Poppy ban.
Yeah, it feels like that. It's felt like that for a little while, right? Whether it was the LeBlanc a couple of patches ago, the Kaiser, plenty of things are pretty much remaining, staple bans on red side. For now, Movistar gonna take a pinch at Pride Stalker's Amumu. Don't necessarily blame them if you saw the Amumu game Pride Stalker had over in groups, and just generally, it's been something that's relatively unique to Pride Stalker. It's not something that's being picked up too much globally, as Tristana will also join the ban bench, and Isma will have the Nocturne taken out of his back pocket. So a lot of early jungle focus here from the bans, which could leave a couple of these strong laners open. I was going to say, like the Rumble, like the Kaiser as well. Things like Aatrox also pretty high in priority even on this patch, despite the nerfs that have come through, as Jace will be the final thing that gets taken away. So will this just be a trigger first pick Kaiser? No, it will be the Maokai. So we'll see what AD mid laner gets paired up with this Maokai, but for now Movistar have the opportunity to respond likely with a jungler and a strong lane to boot alongside it.
Well, immediately actually denying Checkerlad from getting his hands onto the Talia. I was going to say the Rel as well probably should show its face here. That is going to get picked up. Remember, it's flexible between jungle and support. Realistically, we've mostly seen it going in that support role, but there is a bit of flexibility on that front. And same with the Talia. She can go mid, she can go jungle. Again, normally do like to see that Talia go into that mid lane, but there is still an element of slight flexibility here for Movistar, so they've not revealed their hand too much. So we'll see what BKR decide to answer out with here. Obviously, we know that Maokai is going to go in the jungle, expecting to see most likely a mid laner and a ADC, but actually they decided to switch it out and give Howling the Renekton, something that he can just pilot in that top lane and not really need too many resources put into them, because like Gulborg said, typically Pride Stalker likes to hover around mid and play for Checkerlad. So if you can just give Howling something he can play, comfortably in the top side and not lose on, that's what they'll play for.
Yeah, okay, there's the AD carry that you're talking about as well. It's going to be the Xayah. So Movistar, what did they want? They just want supers. Zeri, I mean, look, I've been in jail. I've come back. It's been a very long time since I've cast, and Zeri's still in the meta. It's one of those things, I guess. But for now, Movistar holding on to that flexibility, right, with the Talia and with the Rel. I like the response from BKR because it's basically, very guaranteed strong top side. The Maokai, is always going to be able to provide that, engage or peel depending on what you need. And when you're looking at the flexes, it's always kind of difficult to try and match in what exactly you need. So Movistar, or rather ROG, with this strong sort of core, now have the opportunity to remove away anything that they're kind of worried about that can be paired up with some of these flexes, and they always know they're going to have strong lanes to play through with Xayah in the AD slot and with Renekton on the top side. Bans flown through already. Alistar, Ahri, I like this taken away from Checkerlad. Now basically his most played still up is Azir, so we'll see what exactly Checkerlad wants to land on, given that he's still not really looking at a dedicated matchup just yet with the Talia and the Rel flex.
Something that hasn't actually shown up at all, especially when the Xayah's been picked up, is that Rakan. There's no Rakan ban coming in, so that could be an avenue that BK ROG could look to pick up here. Again, there is still some flexibility, so they could send that Rel into the jungle and pick up the Rakan here as a bit of a denial pick. We'll see if they decide to go for that. Obviously, Rakan into Rel, you're a bit slippery, but if she does catch you with that Q, it could be a little bit painful. You're going to see Marky get his hands onto that Nart, go in the top side to go toe-to-toe Pride Stalker up there. I expect top lane's probably going to be a relatively quiet lane. So let's see what the mid and the support is going to look like here for BK ROG. I feel like this Rakan's pretty much a no-brainer right now for BK ROG. And then mid, the Azir, like we said, has been left open. There's still a fair few things they could go into that mid lane if they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think Azir just makes the most sense here. You've already got Xayah. I think Xayah and Azir are the two best carries in the meta when you're kind of dealing with basically any kind of engage, in my opinion. We'll see exactly where Chocolate wants to go. He's got a relatively wide champion pool, all things considered, and Movistar still technically haven't locked in, you know, the Talia and the Rel into any given position just yet because of that flexibility. It will be the Azir after all, so for me already, BK Rogue, very strong composition at front to backing if they can take control of an area, right? All the river entrances rather. Movistar are going to have a tough time getting in because they don't really have over the roof engage. It's effectively now just going to be Nautilus and Rel. You're hoping that that is going to be enough to break through those strongholds. Movistar, I think, a lot on their plate to get going. They've got the ability to potentially snowball now that they've got this Nautilus and the Rel, a lot of CC, right? So I'm hoping that these champions can pair up very well, look for dives, stack up waves, go for that kind of aggressive nature in the early stages, because once those ultimates come online for BK Rogue, reactive plays are going to be very, very powerful on their end. The Movistar's execution is going to have to be very, very precise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like you were kind of nailing, the zone control is going to be there for BK Rogue, but if they can time their Nara ultimate and then get the Magnet Storm layered in and a bit more from the Nautilus, like that fight's just donezo. So a real powerful wombo combo that Movistar have locked in. On the side of BK Rogue, I feel like they're giving themselves a lot of avenues and safety tools. Obviously the Azir being able to disengage people from the team, or, you know, even shove someone you want into that team. But you've also got the Xayah ultimate as well. A lot of safety nets and a lot of kind of fail safes, I think, for BK Rogue, where I feel like Movistar maybe not locking quite as many fail safes other than just CC and tankiness to stand in front of their carries. I'm curious what you think is going to happen though in the earlier stages of this game. Do you think we're going to see any action, or do you feel like this is just going to be a bit of a farm fest for the junglers and then look for a play around a certain objective?
Nah, I mean, I think when you've got Rel Nautilus on one side, at the very least, Movistar are going to be looking very proactively in the first, sort of 5-10 minutes of the game. See where they can try and snowball. Keep our eyes on Frescawi as well. Talia always on the map, trying to kind of roam. We'll see how many windows he's actually afforded in those opportunities to get over to a side lane. I anticipate the action is going to be drawn down towards the bottom side just because of the nature and the volatility, I feel like, of the 2v2 matchup. Whereas on the top side, right, it's just Nara into Renekton. It's going to be a little bit difficult to punish Marquis unless the wave is very stacked up and he's just come out of that Mega Gnar form and he's taken a couple of bad trades. So looking mostly towards the bottom side, Frescawi and Checolad as well, kind of dueling out for mid lane priority.
Well, defensive lines across the board, nobody looking for any early invades or shenanigans. We do see Alvaro go back after placing a ward, get that sweeper. Just they have a little bit of an opportunity to maybe get EMEA into a lane, into that bot side, and find an opportunistic hook onto Trigger pre-6 before he has that safety net. But across the board, pretty standard stuff. Both junglers will be starting up on their chicken camps. We'll be clearing probably away from each other, so we may see EMEA being able to make that play on the bot side, because I'm pretty sure Pride Stalker's not going to be in the area.
Yeah, definitely right. Interesting prioritization. We'll see where Pride Stalker actually ends up, right? Because he could still technically 3-camp into bot here, and he would be well ahead of EMEA on the tempo department. Keep our eyes on Trigger and ignore him to kind of get a bit of a grips on how aggressive these trades are going to look, because if they can chunk out Alvaro or Super and then Pride Stalker's down there, he could look for that gank. But given the fact he's gone to Krug second as opposed to red buff, I think he's just going to go for a full clear and maybe look up towards Marquis if some positive trades can happen. But again, that early range disadvantage that Renekton is going to suffer into the Gnar will potentially make it kind of difficult for a dive to come through unless a poor trade is initiated by Marquis.
Absolutely. Well, junglers, again, just kind of on that start that we expected from them as Howling. I know we keep coming to this top lane, but I'm going to be real with you. I really don't think we're going to see anything unless Pride Stalker sees an opportunity to make an early gank. But typically, probably just going to be okay just to leave Howling on his own on that top side. This mid lane is where I expect to see Pride Stalker put a lot of attention into. This is normally the player who a lot of investment gets put into by this team. As Alvaro, he just doesn't miss these hooks constantly. Super losing a lot of HP. Trigger ignited, taking a lot of bad damage there from the trade, but Super eating the tower shot. That did a bit of a favor there for BK Rogue, because this lane was not where they wanted it.
Is this diveable,
EMEA, it's very diveable. They have no idea. They have no information about this.
I mean, okay.
Not when the hook lands. They find the lockup. Trigger's already been forced to flash, though. This is going to be an easy one. This is so diveable. EMEA's coming in. Veinorum trying to get away. Trigger trying to survive. Fancy Foot dodging away on everything, but down they go. Veinorum holding on. He gets some healing off. He's just dodging away, but Super will die. Double kill over to him. Trigger gets a kill in response. It was messy, but Movistar come out on top.
Oh, it was so messy, wasn't it? At the end of the day, Super getting 2 kills is still going to feel all right. Trigger's going to close that gold gap up a little bit with that response kill. Tower damage was still ramped up by the time Super actually retook aggro. But either way, it's a 2-for-1 dive where a lot of that wave by Trigger was missed out. It's not a significant CS lead for now, but we'll see as the wave starts to likely bounce back in towards Movistar, whether or not they can continue to punish this bottom side.
Well, Pride Stalker waiting around actually a little bit here. He's going to get jumped onto. Finds himself caught out. Forced to flash. Isma jumps in. He tries to get the twisted advance to dodge away on the stun, but he is donezo. The healing is not going to do enough. What was Pride Stalker doing?
I mean, it's not about what Pride Stalker was doing. He was getting a little bit of information, then going to walk back through mid. It's the fact that Super and Alvaro actually open up towards the top side because they see him on that ward enter. So more about Pride Stalker just not expecting the AD carry of Movistar to be here. As we come into the replay and, you know, a little bit messy on the execution, right? A couple more trades come through from Movistar, and then this looks really diveable. The Q here from Isma. Sidestepped, I think, by Trigger. It's hard to tell whether or not that was an outright miss, but Super cleans up. Then Alvaro keeps tanking, and the reason why this is an issue is now that Super comes in and re-tanks aggro, that tower is still ramped up, so one shot is enough to kill him. Trade comes back out for Trigger, and it's at the very least a 1-kill trade, but either way, Movistar still end up with the result they want, just not quite as clean as perhaps they would have liked it to have been.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a little bit sloppy on that front as BKR once again now getting engaged onto. Lovely little hook comes out on to Trigger, who pops the ghost. He's got the feathers behind him, but I don't think he has the E up for another 5 seconds, and that's going to be a support going down for that one. Really messy play from Trigger in the bot side here, and honestly, solid punishment from Super and Alvaro.
Yeah, but something there that was really nice was I think Alvaro actually had one more minion DMAT, killed the minion, and was able to dredge line through a little bit earlier onto Trigger. So really, really nice use of the rune there. It's another dredge line. This guy is just not missing.
He is just bullying Trigger. He's not been able to do much. And Super gets his flash in. Secure the kill.
This is just early domination, isn't it? It's really, really rough to look at right now. Movistar going to turn this into a dragon as well. So how far can they go with this is the question. Kills keep on racking up. Super already 3-1 and 2. This dragon as well. It looks like it will be minorly contested, but I just feel like overall BKR cannot step into this area and look to contest.
It's really tragic as well, because when you think about the Rakan and Xayah lane, the main reason people like this lane is because it's very safe. There's like, because Rakan gets his max range on his E, you obviously have the ultimate from the Xayah to keep him safe. They're just very hard to pin down and kill, but they have died 4 times down there now. And obviously Isma did go for that dive early, but it is a bunch of mistakes coming in and not having the greatest performance right now. Super, back to the lane, Noon Quiver, Shard, and the cloak as well. They've basically got their static shift. They are, I think that's 600 or 400 gold. I can't actually remember the maths now on it off the top of my head, but they're very close to a static shift. Meanwhile, Trigger is rocking double longsword, a recurve bow, and then a Cole with only had 40 stacks so far. So a long way to go before Trigger really is going to be able to compete to what Super's doing.
Yeah, he's thrift shopping, isn't he? And I mean, the annoyance is if this stack shift comes in way more accelerated than normal and Movistar are able to move Super into the mid lane, that stack shift wave clear is going to just open up the map even more. As
oh no,
this is rough.
I mean, that's just smart read there by Movistar. Just to have their jungler in the wall, bait him into his doom. There's no way you can play that. And the cost of this is Trigger now has to move away because there is a dive that can easily happen. They don't have flash, they don't have ghost, they don't have ultimate. They're losing so much experience now. Does look like Checolad and Pride Stalker are rotating over. Trigger may play a little bit of a baiting game here. Isma will spot them out though, and that's a lot of minions lost to Trigger. He is really going to be feeling the hurt on that one.
Ooh, okay. Ultimate. Chen just knocked away. Doesn't have the slice and dice here. Howling looks like he used it off screen before he panned up, so no ability to gap close, and Ash doesn't really have the damage for lethal. Gone towards the tabbies first as well. They're going to fight over the over the plants off screen. Classic top lane action, as down here, I mean, the pressure just continues to mount. Movistar getting all the invades they want.
Checolad! Not the place he needs to be. Does shuffle free back. They've got the twisted advance coming in. Great knock up, and this is now Trigger's moment to put some work in, to put some damage down. Frisky on the run is going to get picked up. Checolad goes down. Super is here, and there's the Magnus Storm to follow up. The damage is just going to be too much here for the side of BK Rogue. Pride Stalker keeping in place. Trigger goes in for the flash. Is not able to get the double kill. It's going to be an absolute slaughter from Movistar.
Remake territory if this is a scrim right now. Movistar taking over the map, and I mean, it was honestly a good initial look from BK Rogue after Checolad was able to disengage, but again, it just feels like too powerful already. Movistar, and once the collapse comes in from Super, a little bit too much. Already chunking out Checolad. He's got nothing to offer. And even though the initial CC looks pretty promising here for BK Rogue, don't have enough damage to finish off everyone else besides Frescowi. Super's here now. A 3v3, and then the re-engage from Isma is just too powerful. Super's plastering in these queues through multiple members. Even though Trigger does his best with the feather pullback, Super not quite squishy enough to be bursted down, and Isma comes in, flashes forward as well. And the kill goes over to Super. 3 more into the AD carry's back pocket. 6, 1, and 3 now. Static Shiv, pickaxe. This guy, he's 9 minutes into the game with items you'd expect to see an AD carry 15 minutes into the game have.
Yeah, they're pretty turbo federal at this point, and Isma's going to turn their attention towards this first rift out. There is a dragon on the map as well. They have enough power mid for the bot side that they could just go and take that whenever they please. Right now, Isma is going to see what they can do with this rift out. As Marky and Howling just scrapping out. This is going to be a very sad game to be Howling right now, because this game is just... this is the most top lane game ever, right? Like, bot lane is just gone real bad, and you're sitting there like, we're 9 minutes in, bro. What do I do?
It's like the top lane life. You look in Renekton, you're like, maybe I'll get a little bit of attention here because I'm playing Renekton, but then you get counterpicked by Nah. It's a little bit hard to punish. And then Pride Stalker's just never on this side of the map because he's got to try and hold the pieces together on the opposite side, but it's just failing all around. So yeah, saddest top lane game in the universe here for Howling. We'll see if Movistar can come back into it though, because again, you know, these hyper carries of Xayah and Azir, generally some of the best at, you know, holding ground. The issue is if Movistar continue at this pace, bear in mind we're a 5k or 4.5k gold deficit right now from the perspective of BK Rogue. Movistar are just gonna run over the fights, right? But if they can somehow try and find a way to stabilize, it could be all right. But Movistar not looking to keep their foot off the gas pedal for long. Will they just look to dive? This tower's not low enough to die. I feel like it could be a little bit over eager here again. Remember, Featherstorm, ultimates available to peel as well. Very difficult to dive this trio. I think they're just gonna have to call it off. Checolad is gonna get a couple of plates, I think, in the mid lane for all this hovering. It's not the worst trade in the world, I suppose, for BK Rogue, but Movistar still putting the pressure down on the map. They'll get this dragon. Oh, they didn't get it earlier. Of course, this is still the first dragon from a couple of minutes ago. So I guess if there's one thing... Nope. Do they want it? Okay, they do want it. There's one good thing, Jake, for BK Rogue right now. There's no, like, immediate 20-minute soul threat, right? And hey, if we're, you know, silver linings, it's not going to be a Hex Tech one, which is probably the worst combat soul to go up against when you're being snowballed on. So, you know, glass half full right now, as my favorite dragon is going to spawn on to the Rift in 5 minutes time, as the Cloud one will be the next. We'll see exactly what soul comes up, because that has definitely also made and broken a couple of snowbally early games like this, right? You end up, you know, rolling a Cloud or a Chemtech when it's not necessarily the most favorable, and all of a sudden, if you've got this kind of composition of Azir and Xayah, you can hold on for long enough to try and get those items online and actually start to fight back.
Absolutely. Well, Super gonna be able to pick this plate up, but also just play the denial game, and Trigger is gonna be very upset with this, losing not the cannon. The tower will actually survive. The cannon, sorry, will survive long enough. So Trigger, if he wants to go over, can pick up that cannon. As BK Rogue, all they can really do right now is just deathball around with Pride Stalker and hope they catch someone snoozing and see if they can translate that into anything, because there is very little they're going to be able to do. They are going to send Trigger down to that bot side just to collect the wave, but he is significantly far behind. Does have the Kraken Slayer now finished up, but Super going back to base. They're going to pick up off the back of this base. They got to be getting something pretty juicy here, because they got a whole bunch of plates. Infinity Edge. There he is. A whole Infinity Edge.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we're good.
Right. Yeah, we're not 12.5 minutes into the game. That's okay. Yeah, this is looking rough. Really, really rough now. Once Super's officially back out onto the map, they're going to place him up in the top side, see if they can get a couple of plates. I don't mind this. 5 plates still available on the top side. If Movistar can quickly rotate over and put some pressure down, they can easily strip away 2.5, maybe even 3 plates. If this next wave coming in afterwards is a cannon. Actually, this one's the cannon, so you would want Movistar to just immediately peel over. Yeah, he is. It's a very, very big lead that they've managed to amass here. Here's the rotation over as well from Movistar. And now if you're BK Rogue, even if you're waiting in the wings for this play, it feels like you're just going to slowly but surely have to yield. I think Movistar are a bit too slow if they were looking to get some plates, but at the end of the day, again, the pressure's still going to be felt. Can't really contest. Super can always just glide over the wall. Very difficult to kill with both his summoner spells up. Those 2 items as well. Way too much damage to deal with. So BK Rogue will be on the back foot for a very, very long time. It's about whether or not they can catch people out in rotation, or I guess if Movistar can catch people out in the rotation themselves.
Well, Pride Stalker will find himself in danger, is able to root people in place as Marquis teleports in. Pride Stalker goes down. I guess the good news is he didn't let anyone else get close enough to get taken out as well. But a little bit of a rough pick off there, and I'll be his third death of the game. Not having a particularly great performance right now. The Super not going to be able to get any more plates, as this tower plate will fall off right now. But we'll be able to do a significant chunk of this tower. If not, just take it, to be fair.
Get the tower.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's got an Infinity Edge. Yeah, this tower's got him.
Yeah, it's only 75 AD on top of that stack ship.
Trigger goes
a deep teleport.
They're going for the play. They're teleporting in. They're going to force the flash out. Let's see if Izma can buy some space here. They found themselves a lovely little hook off, and that's a ghost. That's a teleport, and absolutely nothing gained from BK Rogue.
I mean, they get Alvaro's flash, but it's just not really the target you're looking for in this instance, and great reactions from Movistar bottom lane. Rotate out of there in time, so the one window maybe that BK Rogue actually had to try and punish what was, I wouldn't even say an overzealous look at this top tower here, is completely avoided by the Spanish #1 seed, and they will get this tower in the end anyway. So again, BK Rogue continue to fall further and further behind. This tower will go down, Super will collect it. Now the Herald spawns in 30 seconds time. They can probably look to quickly reset, come back out, and even if it's a little bit too close to the spawn, they won't really care too much. The only chess piece they need to move over is Marquis at this point, as ignore him. Gonna stop this base here, but Izma, I'm not sure he's gonna care too much, as now the Herald's 20 seconds away, and we'll still go for that reset regardless.
Yeah, I think he wants to finish up an item before this Herald does spawn up, and to be fair, BK Rogue not particularly in the position right now on the map to be able to really contest objectives. It's gonna have to be a miracle fight for them to be able to pull this one out of the bag. And do you see Izma finishes up their Mythic? Obviously got that Barmaid, it will turn into a Sunfire at some point fairly soon, and Izma just gonna make their way straight over towards the big old crab. Probably can do this on their own, to be honest. Won't really need anybody to help, just make sure that they don't get picked off, and Izma will be spotted out by the ward, but Super's hit. Riftel's gonna go down real quick. And honestly, right now for the LFL second seed, they're probably just thinking about what they need to do differently going into game #2. Because this game is, I'm not gonna say it's done, but it's not looking great. It's not looking great right now.
It's not the best position I've seen a team in, that's for sure. Movistar as well, keeping the pace high, always looking for these plays. Herald dropped in the mid lane, so they'll get this tier 1. Let's see if they can get a second charge as Frescawi comes in to collapse as well. Howling's on half a flank angle here, but he will certainly be spotted on that ward.
Yep.
I just don't think they can make anything work. They're going to look anyway. Here we go.
That's the flash after Clinton. Brought them back already. Trigger has to use Dark Feather Storm early. Instantly gets followed up by the CC. This fight is done. But no, Super's been picked up. Howling's found the kill. Trigger's still actually alive. Hook goes wide from Alvaro. Sheklan on the run, trying to finish up Izma. In comes Strowski, trying to block everybody off. But Frisky can't get in place now.
Marquis.
As BK Rogue's health bars are low. Trigger, though, putting the feathers in place. Can't follow up, and he goes down. Double kill over to Talia. And it was honestly a way better fight than it should have been for BK Rogue.
I mean, they get their high value target in Super, but it costs everything else almost. Every single summoner spell beside Trigger's flash blown here in this exchange. I'm not actually quite sure who picked up the shutdown gold for Super. I'm sure we'll get a look at it in the replay, but Movistar caught out a little bit, still able to respond very, very well, given that they lost their 2.5 item AD carry 15 minutes into this game. BK Rogue, you can still see looking proactively. That's the one thing I'm worried about, right? They've got all of this snap engage via the Arcana Master. Initial looking from Pride Stalker is also good. The follow-up is always going to be a little bit difficult, it feels like, from these carries, right? This time around it works because they get the pincer onto Super, so that's great. And that shutdown went over, I believe, to Howling this time around. Good flash there from Checolad, but still stunned up and re-stunned and rooted in. I was worried here for BK Rogue as Marquis approached Meganar, but he was actually rooted up in the midst of it. Yeah, and fortunately meant that he wasn't able to follow up sooner to potentially pick up more kills for Movistar. BK Rogue still on the back foot, but still looking proactively for these plays when and where they can.
Yeah, it was a lovely block off there from Frescawi on the Talia as well. You saw the Unraveled Earth made just a zone where Trigger had nowhere to move, and then obviously had the wall as well put up to block off any escape, so he was forced to walk over and just go down. Really, really rough there. But I will say, for the side of BK Rogue, honestly, a fight that was way closer than maybe it should have been. and they're slowly starting to get some gold back from that play. You know, a bit of a shame that Howling was the one who picked up the shutdown onto Super. I'm sure they would have much rather Checolad or Trigger getting that gold. But at the end of the day, it's still gold injected into your Renekton. He's now got that Stride Breaker finished up. He's starting to get a little bit stronger. There's, you know, there is a world where if they can find a couple more fights like that, where even if they trade down, they're still actually kind of getting gold injected onto key targets. Maybe there's a world where they can start to look to contest. They, like you said, we don't have that 20-minute soul coming up. It's been a very slow kind of dragon game from Movistar. They're not being overly interested on those, being a bit more interested on just kind of opening the map up and taking those towers and securing global gold for the team.
Yeah, exactly. It's about how they suffocate BK Rogue out now for the next couple of minutes, right? Dragon Spawn's at 3 minutes, Baron's under a minute. Do they want to try and, you know, risk an early Baron? I mean, they've got 2.5 AD carry, right? And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to burst that one down very, very effectively and very quickly. I feel like BK Rogue, however, have a very, very good composition at trying to shut down those kind of brash objective starts between Maokai and Rakan. So it's going to be very tempered, I expect, as Movistar. Howling? How awkward of a position is he in?
Pretty awkward indeed.
One.
The Price Stalker's not going to get in range. Neither's Checolad, unfortunately. The tower has gone down. They got a lot of damage onto Marky, but Trigger is forced to ult way too low. And just honestly, Frescowie, his Weaver's Wall just absolutely dominated that fight, just blocking off Checolad and Pride Stalker from being anywhere near to protect their team.
Yeah, exactly. The one the fight that happened just below this blue buff as well was very, very excellent. Cutting off BK Oregon, this one just as good. Movistar looks like they want resets, maybe a couple more iron completions on the cards here. Frescowie finishes up that Archangels. Maybe Super's got that Runan's finished up as well. And at that point, I feel like you can do whatever you want on the map. See if you can force BK Rogue into you at the Baron. It is definitely a little bit risky. Again, I think Rakan, Maokai, really good. You know, you've got that big root field on its way towards what should be a Movistar in position at the pit to get hit by it. Even then, I just feel like the front line available to Movistar is going to outdo any kind of pressure that BK Rogue will be able to put down in front of that pit. So let's see exactly how high they keep this pace as BK Rogue. I feel like you've got maybe one more Hail Mary play in you. Flashes are back up for Pride Stalker. Howling needs his. Checolad's back up. Just see if they can find Super unawares, right? See if he can get caught out stepping too far forward. And if they find him, maybe they can find a positive fight off the back of it. But if they can't, I feel like Movistar are just going to continue to wrap this game up slowly with a nice little bow on top.
That's what is going to be the case. Is Pride Stalker just moving away. Yzma looking to just contest the vision. Obviously, the Baron is going to be the major point that these players are going to be looking towards, where their attention is going to be going. But 21 minutes on the clock, and we can see Movistar, they don't feel pressured to start it immediately. They are going to go for it now once they feel comfortable that they've got the vision control. Checolad's going to show on the bottom side of the map. And Marky does have himself a very low health bar. It's forced to flash, but on the other side, Howling is going to go down. They do trade 1-for-1. They have teleport on Checolad, but I think with the fact that the Azir ult's down, they just don't feel comfortable contesting it. And Movistar going to pick this Baron up for free.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think if this is ever to come together for BK Rogue in front of this pit, they need that little bit of extra CC that comes out from the wall, right? If everyone gets caught stacked up on the Movistar end. Both the top laners just overstepping their bounds a little, but it's Movistar that will pick up the Baron on the back end of it. They'll return to the map. Dragon spawns at 20 seconds. At the very least, I guess, silver lining here. A little bit of extra gold from this tower with the objective bounty on it, but it really does feel like a consolation prize at this point. As once Movistar return out onto the map, proper and full, they'll take this dragon, barely eat into their Baron time, and then they'll look to siege up on the base here of BK Rogue where they feel appropriate.
Oh my word. I did not expect Marky to have done that much damage, but I guess it's been, you know, a bit of a brawly top lane. He's just been kind of poking out on Howling constantly. Dragon gonna get picked up here by Movistar. No real contest can come through from BK Rogue. And the question is are they gonna have an avenue? Are they gonna have a window where they can potentially open this game up and look for the win? Or is this really just assess what went wrong here and then look towards the next game?
Feels like assess at this point. Maybe if, well, I was going to say, if they don't pull the trigger quickly.
Yzma comes in immediately. Checolad finds himself low, but he's actually still alive. The healing did so much work. Alvaro misses the hook twice in a row in the middle of that fight, and somehow Checolad limps out of there with his ultimate up as well. They do trade out jungler for jungler, but that's one of the major engage tools down on the side of Movistar. But they've still got the Baron, they've still got the gold lead, and they're just going to crack this tower open. They're not going to hang around for the inhibitor, but rather just get the reset off the back of this.
Yeah, definitely a little bit awkward there from Alvaro, like you highlighted. If the hooks connect, maybe things look even better for Movistar, but they still get a lot off the back of that play. Just a little bit less than perhaps they should have, as now they've broken open the base. You can always try and punish now, end the game through the bottom side if a fight ever breaks out, and they've got a wave on that side of the map. BK Rogue happy to kind of absorb that pressure as, oh no indeed, Checolad no flash. He's got the sun disc, but how much
Let's see if he's got it in him. He's got a support to walk him out to make sure he's safe. Pride Stalker's also here. Marky about to gnar out though, so this is a little bit scary. Alvaro's going to flash over the wall just to get in space, and the Azir tower at least buys some time here for the side of BK Rogue. And honestly, Checolad played that well to stay alive as Marky jumps over the wall, gets the slam back, they get the CC chain off, and they're just going to get the shuffle down. Trigger goes in for the ultimate, but in comes Isra on the flank. Trigger able to find himself one, does find himself caught in the Manga Storm, and in comes Super to tidy up the fight. Pride Stalker, he has nowhere to go. Double kill for Super. And Movistar making this game number one just look easy for them. An absolutely dominating performance in game one of this series.
It's like an action movie, isn't it? Superman shows up late to save the day. Not that it needed much saving in this play. And Movistar, they'll get this top lane inhibitor. They can even probably rotate down towards the bottom side, or frankly, look to end the game. Death time is just about long enough. Let's see how well BKRO can try and hold on to this one. I don't think they've got it in them.
I don't think they do at all at this point. In they go with the charm. They find the knock up for now. Howling trying to see if he can buy some damage, some space for his team. But I don't think that is going to be anywhere doable for them. The tower does stand for just a little bit longer.
Another wave.
And it actually looks like BKR have been able to force Movistar away from the base.
All right, nice little bit of discipline here. I don't mind this from Movistar. They know they've got a massive lead here. Why risk it? Why throw when you've got, 1,000 gold and shutdowns alone on your carries, potentially that you could hand over? Just play this one slower. Go back for the resets, and that's exactly what they'll do. Reset not going to be stopped there by Viganorum. Unfortunate for him, but I feel like this game, it's been done and dusted for a little while. BKR have done their best, but the play's just fallen a little bit short on the execution threshold, and Movistar's retaliation and just outright proactiveness has definitely been a little bit too overbearing for them, as now Movistar return to the bottom side of the map. See if they can break open the inhibitor, and of course the dragon spawns in 90 seconds time, so they want that soul. As Checolad forced to retreat, but maybe it's Pride Stalker. Who do they want? They definitely want Checolad a little bit more.
Yeah, they're going to jump in onto him, see if they can find the damage. Checolad does get the shuffle back. Checolad, nothing to do, nowhere to go, as he will just fall.
Just misjudged how far his flash would get him. Flashes into the Talia wall. Dredge line connects. Goodbye, Viganorum. And this game looks like a game on to Movistar. First Nexus Tower's down. Don't think BKR have anything to answer this one with.
I don't think they do at all. I think this is just going to be a Movistar absolute dominating performance for game number one. Absolutely huge game coming in from Movistar in this first game of the series. And I don't know what happened. BKR just fell apart. It just totally crumbled. It was brutal, to be honest.
Yeah, it was those first couple of skirmishes, right, that started off this snowball, and Movistar were so happy to continually throw play after play. And I mean, it's what we expected with the amount of CC and, potential damage on offer on the early game from Movistar, and the, I wouldn't say lack of early game presence available to BKR, but more about the fact that you've got Xayah, you've got Azir, you're probably going to be a little bit more reactive. You're going to wait to hit 2 items. Movistar said, hell no to that. And basically, every single time Alvaro threw out a dredge line in the first 15 minutes, it connected and it resulted in a kill or a dive outright. And everything fell into Super's lap for him to hit 2 items really early in that game and eventually take over the game with the rest of Movistar as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think bot lane just snowballed too quickly. It's one of those games where it's like, you can pull apart a lot of the things, but I feel like at the core, it was just like bot lane kind of went really bad really fast, and it was just so unsalvageable when all of that gold was going on to Super, and the game just has just totally run away from them at that point. So, I feel obviously it's one of those ones where it's not hard for them to really step back and go, right, what do we do different? Maybe just not feed Super so much. It's probably going to be the angle, to be honest. I'm curious on your thoughts on the picks there. Do you feel like the Zyra Khan was just like countered and just was unplayable? Or do you think it was just mistakes coming out from them?
I mean, I think the 1-2, I think going towards the Maokai first and then, you know, the Talia being picked up, I think, from Movistar, perhaps a little bit, you know, unexpected. It's not necessarily something that Friscavi's really lent on too much. In fact, it's actually been something that Checolad has played a lot so far at this tournament. So I think the hold of that flex into what turned into a very difficult to navigate game outside of the draft really just made things really awkward to the point where BK Rogue were probably struggling to really build a bit of a stronghold in the draft to lean on, and that then turned into a game where, again, you have these two very sort of air quotes weak lanes to play around through mid and bot, or a stronger bot and mid to play through on the opposite side of Movistar, which forces you into this reactive playstyle, which unfortunately means you don't really get to dictate the tempo of the game, and if you can't very slow that tempo down, you get run over.
One absolutely banger game number one to open up on this series. Let's see if BK Rogue can fight back, or if Movistar are going to just push us to match point in dominating style. We'll find out, but before that, we're going to quickly throw to a break, so we'll be back in a moment.